So we're going to be reading from episode 10, chapter 15, starting from text 20. The killing of Dhenuka, the ass demon. And so yesterday we were talking all about Krishna going out to take care of the cows now, the big full-grown cows, and seeing new areas of the forest of Vrindavan that he'd never seen before, and all that beautiful. And so one day when they were out there in those deep parts of the Vrindavan forest, some of the cowherd boys, they approached Krishna and they said, Krishna, you know, there's a forest nearby here where there are these big, huge tall trees. So tall is a fruit and it smells really nice. It's very like aromatic. If you're anywhere near a tall fruit, you know it because you can smell it from a distance. And it's a big fruit, like an eggplant, and it looks like an eggplant. It's like black and about that big. And inside it's orange like a mango and fibrous. So yeah, so they were smelling, there was a forest that was just full of tall trees and the tall fruits. And so they were smelling it and they were like, Krishna, we're smelling these tall fruits. And what do you think? I bet you there's a lot of fruits lying on the ground and we can just go pick them up, or we can get them off the trees, but somehow or other get the tall fruits, don't you think so? So it says here, like in text 20, it says that they spoke to Krishna with love. And so premna means with love. So prema is never selfish. Love is never a selfish thing. It's always that you're thinking of the benefit of the person that you love. So the reason that the boys are speaking about the tall trees is because one, they saw Krishna killing all these demons already, and they saw how he had a really good time doing it, and it created a lot of excitement for everyone. And so they're thinking Krishna had a good time killing the demons, and they knew that this tall forest was guarded by this huge giant donkey demon who wouldn't let anybody in there. And this demon was he was big and he was mean, and usually donkeys are vegetarians, but this donkey named Dhenukasura, he was known to eat people alive. He would like just devour humans. And so nobody went to that forest. Nobody dared to go to the forest. And even animals didn't go over the forest. Even birds didn't fly over the forest because everybody was so scared of that demon. And he was living there with all of his donkey associates who are similarly cruel and miserly and didn't want to share the tall fruits. So the cowherd boys were all thinking that this is not a very good situation. And I'm sure that Krishna wants to rectify the situation so that we can all play there, so that he can go and frolic there, so that all the residents of Vrindavan can go and get tall fruits and enjoy them. Because anyways, there's more than he can eat. They're just falling and rotting on the ground. So they thought this is just a completely like unreasonable situation. And I'm sure Krishna wants to rectify it. So they were like thinking what would please Krishna, and they were appealing to him like that. Did you want to say something, Evan? Go ahead.
You said donkey associates, not ass associates.
Ass associates. Yeah, his ass associates. So Dhenukasura, all the demons of Vrindavan, they represent one anartha, one bad quality that we have that kind of blocks us from being pure devotees. And Dhenuka represents the false ego, which is a very deep-rooted thing that it's basically ignorance of our real selves, ignorance of our spiritual nature and our relationship with Krishna. And because the donkey is basically the symbol of stupidity. In Sanskrit, the word mudha means ass or donkey. We're using ass in the sense of like jackass, like a donkey, rather than the other English meaning of the word. But yeah, the word mudha means ass. And it also means a stupid person who's like an ass. So yeah, and Prabhupada said that the ass is the symbol of stupidity. So this false ego is a manifestation of just complete ignorance of the self. Like, I don't know who I am. I don't know, you know, I'm just thinking that I'm something that I'm not. I'm thinking that I'm the material body. And then Dhenuka's associates, they represent all the things that come about due to false ego. So there are a lot of things. If you go through, there's a whole list of things. I'll read through some of these things, and then you can see if anything kind of like rings a bell. But in any case, these will help us to understand what false ego is and how it manifests, which is important for us to understand. So one thing is the bodily concept of life, just thinking I'm this body and, you know, trying to satisfy the senses, thinking that I'll be happy doing that. Another thing is, yeah, material desires, desiring material things, thinking that those will make me happy. Taking credit for things that we do or think that we're doing. Actually, the word ahankar, which means false ego, it's like aham, which means I, and kar means the doer. So it literally means I am the doer. So just thinking that I am the doer of anything is a manifestation of false ego. Then ownership, thinking that I possess anything, that anything belongs to me, because like we come into the world with nothing, we go with the world with nothing. Then, yeah, but in between, we think we own so many things. Separatism, that, you know, I just want to do things my way, like this whole American rugged individualism, you know, that it's my way or the highway. I don't want to work with other people because that means that I have to compromise my own, you know, things to accommodate other people. And then this can also lead to like groupism based on basically like skin disease. Because if you're in the bodily concept of life, then it's like, you know, you identify with your family, with your country, with your race, with your gender, with your age group, whatever, thinking these are my people and these are not my people. So that's a manifestation of false ego. Then, yeah, false pride, like basking in your own success, your own achievements, thinking that you're wonderful. And then the flip side of that is low self-esteem, wallowing in failure, because that's also another kind of like selfishness. And somebody said that depression is actually frustrated arrogance. Something to meditate on. Perpetual dissatisfaction, you know, like that I'm always dissatisfied because nothing is good enough for me. The situation is never good enough for me. This is coming from false ego. And then falsehood, like being, you know, trying to hide one's weaknesses. Not seeking help is a manifestation of false ego, because it's like, I don't need help, I can do it on my own. Not asking questions in class, because people might think that I don't know, because you want to pose as knowing everything. Having a controlling nature, trying to lord it over other people, just being quarrelsome, inability to forgive, because you think I'm right and that person is wrong. Envy, thinking, you know, how is it that that person has more than me? Because I'm the best, I should have everything the best. Rebelliousness to authority, and which ultimately is rebelliousness towards Krishna. Ungratefulness, because you think like I'm a self-made person, like I did this, whatever I did, it was on my own strength, by my own intelligence, and so there's nobody to be grateful to because I did it all myself. So we don't recognize the ways that people help us. And then being like hypersensitive, easily offended, is also a manifestation of false ego, taking offense to any little thing people say and do. Ignoring others, because we think I'm the most important person. It doesn't matter what that person is doing or saying or feeling. And then the biggest one is desire for impersonal liberation, like kind of like in a Mayavadi sense, wanting to be God. And that, you know, I'm the best goes to I am God. So then these are some of the ways that false ego manifested. Each one of these things is one of Dhenukasura's donkey associates. Okay, so then, yeah, so the cowherd boys are really trying to rile Krishna and Balaram up to go and kill Dhenukasura and his friends. He's calling him Amitrahan, oh killer of the enemy. You've killed so many demons, don't spare this one. And yeah, so they approach in different ways. Like, first of all, this demon is there and you are the killer of demons, so you should take care of him. The other is that, everybody's so afraid of this forest. You're the protector of all your devotees, so you need to protect your devotees by killing this demon. Then the other one is, these fruits smell so good. I bet you this is the best tall fruits ever, and we really want to eat them. We're dying to taste them. So they kind of like, what's the word? They give these different reasons to try to convince, different arguments to convince Krishna to go. So then finally, Krishna and Balaram are like, okay, and they just give a laugh and they go. They're like, all right, let's do it. So this is, and it says that Krishna and Balaram laughed, and desiring to please them, the cowherd boys set off for Talavan surrounded by their friends. So the boys wanted to please Krishna by asking him to go because they knew that he wanted to go. And Krishna went to try to please them because they were requesting him to go. So this is kind of the nature of, the spiritual world, that everyone's trying to please the other person. And so all these things go on like that. So then Lord Balaram entered first, and the cowherd boys went, and the cows also went. So all of them, there was a big crowd there, and they were trying to get the fruits in different ways. So Balaram is like shaking the tree because he's really strong, and all the fruits are falling, and the boys are getting stones and throwing up there to try to knock them down. And some of the other boys are piling up like human pyramids to try to reach the trees. And so all this is making a lot of noise because the rocks and the boys are yelling and the fruits are falling and they're big. So they're making thud, 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 thud. And then Dhenukasura, who is sleeping, wakes up. And then he's like, fee, fi, fo, fum. Who's bothered? I smell the blood of whatever. Jack and the Beanstalk. I never heard that story. Krishna goes to the tall stalk. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. You know it? And so Dhenuka comes in this mood. Who's there stealing my tall fruits? Nobody's allowed in this forest. How dare anyone come here? So then Dhenuka, he starts running. And then the Dhenuka is so big that when he's running, it's shaking the ground and it's making the trees shake. And the boys who are in their pyramids, they're like about to fall. So the boys at the top of the pyramid are like hugging onto the trees and they're getting worried. So then they're like sliding down the tree and going to hide because they're scared now. And yeah, so let's see. Anyway, so then Dhenukasura comes, and because Balaram, for a while, Krishna didn't, he's just kind of like observing what's going on. Balaram shook the tree. So then Dhenuka is targeting Balaram. And he runs up and he turns his back to Krishna because donkeys, like they fight by kicking with the back legs. And he rears up and he just kicks Balaram really hard in the chest. But it's described that when Balaram sees Dhenukasura, because he's so ugly and he's so like funny looking, he's just laughing. He's laughing so hard that he doesn't even notice that he got kicked. And then that makes Dhenukasura even more angry. So there's one thing interesting here about how it's Balaram who goes in there. So, okay, let me just get to the end of this one. Then the Dhenuka comes and he tries to kick Balaram again, but this time Balaram just with his left hand, effortlessly, he just grabs hold of the hind legs of Dhenukasura and he whirls him. He whirls him around and whirls him around. And while he's whirling him around, Dhenuka already leaves his body. Like he just like centrifugal force, his soul goes shooting out of his body. And then he throws his body into the top of a very tall, the tallest tall tree there, just to like show the rest of the donkeys that that's what happened to your leader. He's up there in the tree right now, lifeless. So it's interesting that Balaram kills this particular demon. This is the first demon that Balaram kills. And one thing that we notice here is that all the other demons, they actually attacked Krishna. They were, Krishna was peacefully doing his stuff, and they came to get Krishna. Whereas this is the first one where the demon was just peacefully sitting, and they went to agitate the demon and kill the demon. So this is the nature of the demons that Krishna kills. For the most part, they attack Krishna. And the demons that Balaram kills, they don't always, sometimes they attack, sometimes they don't attack. So the idea is that Krishna, let's see. Yeah, that Krishna's mood is that he doesn't intervene. He gives us, he gives free will. He gives free will to the jivas. So here we are with our free will and with false ego. All these things that we just talked about, all these different aspects of false ego are there within our hearts. And we're just living our lives according to those things, according to our misidentifications. And so Krishna doesn't intervene. He doesn't, like come in front of us and say, like, get off the bodily concept of life. You're a spirit soul. Actually, you're not doing anything. You don't own anything here. This is not your place, like that. But Balaram represents the spiritual master. Balaram is the Adi Guru, the original Guru. And so Krishna doesn't interfere with our free will, but the pure devotees do. The spiritual master actually goes, like Srila Prabhupada, he came to the West. Nobody invited him to come over here to give Krishna consciousness to everybody. So, yeah. So then, of course, if we approach Krishna, then Krishna will reciprocate, thousands of times. For every step we take towards Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate and take at least 10 steps towards us. But he says that his devotees are more merciful than him. And this is why, because they approach even sinful rascals who have no interest in Krishna. And yeah, so devotees who are spiritual masters or preachers are representing Balaram. And the spiritual master knows the heart of Krishna. He knows that Krishna really actually wants everybody to come to him so that they can be happy. He doesn't want people to perform sinful activities and suffer sinful reactions and go to hellish existences and things like that. So Balaram wants to make people happy. Devotees want to make, Balaram wants to make Krishna happy, and Krishna's happy when everybody is in their eternal constitutional positions. So by hook or by crook, the devotees try to reclaim the fallen souls and help them realize their true selves. So, yeah. And then also, like Dhenuka, when he kicks Balaram, he turns backwards. So it's kind of like he turns his back. It's kind of like turning the back on Krishna, turning back on the devotees and kicking them away. So then, yeah, Balaram went there to try to help him, but he didn't want to get help the easy way. So then Balaram had to give him some tough love. All right, so then when Balaram threw him up into the tree, then that tree fell down. And when it fell down, it fell on another tree and it knocked that one down and fell on another tree. So it was like a domino effect. So many trees were falling, and that crashing sound woke up all the other donkey demons. And then they all came. And when they saw that Balaram was standing there, they understood that Balaram had killed Dhenukasura, who was their leader. So they thought, oh, this Balaram is very strong. He killed our leader. What are we going to do? We won't be able to defeat him. But this guy over here looks weaker, Krishna. So we'll try him. He's a little smaller. He's probably weaker. And he was just standing there watching. So he's probably a wimp. We'll kill him. So then they started attacking him. And then Krishna was the same thing. He was just... So Krishna and Balaram were just grabbing all these demons and just winging them around and throwing them into the trees. And yeah, and the trees were falling, and it was a whole scene. I think there's a description here. I can never find the things in my notes. But yeah, it says that they were laughing. Thousands of angry donkeys were braying and charging Krishna and Balaram, and Krishna and Balaram were just laughing and picking them up, just like, someone would pick up a mouse by the tail, just so easily, just like zip, very nonchalantly. So there's this whole scene, if you can just try to visualize this scene where there's like thousands of donkeys flying through the air and thousands of trees crashing down. And then all these, and the donkeys are like braying and, screeching, and the boys are shouting and cheering, and the cows, there's hundreds and thousands of cows there, they're all mooing, and there's a huge cloud of dust in the sky, and there's blood everywhere. And the tree and all these fruits from the trees are falling because the donkeys are going on top of the trees, and all the trees are coming crashing down, and they're smashing on the ground, and all the juice is coming out. So Shukadeva Goswami says that the whole scene at the end of it was very beautiful, actually. That he said it looked like the red sky at sunset, because the ground was like covered in like this orange mango color tal juice mixed with the red blood of all these donkeys, and then the bodies of the donkeys were like dark clouds. When the sun's going down, then the clouds look dark. But then behind it, so it's like this beautiful sunset scene with like shades of orange and red with the black clouds, and
on top of the trees?
Yeah, some were on the trees, some were falling down, but it was like this, like they were dark, so it looked like silhouettes, against the setting sun of the tall juice and blood. So Shukadeva Goswami said that it was a very artistic, it was very like breathtakingly, like aesthetically pleasing to look at. And the whole forest smelled amazing because of all the tall fruits. So, Krishna always makes a pleasing scene. And the demigods were watching, so they start cheering and showering flowers. And and the boys are singing and dancing. And then the thing is, like, they wanted to go there to eat the tall fruits, but then in the end, they didn't even eat the tall fruits, because the tall fruits now they were all like mixed with donkey blood and stuff, and they're just like, we're not eating those. But anyways, they didn't have to because they had their lunch packs. And Shukadeva Goswami says that they were happy just smelling the tall fruits was like satisfying. And they had their lunches, so they were good. But the whole point was that after a while, then it rained and everything got purified and decomposed, and then the forest was open, so the Brajvasis would go there and eat fruits, and everybody was able to just enjoy all those tall fruits.
Is there any point about them being satisfied, so they did not want to eat tall fruits anymore? Like they had that desire, but that desire.
Yeah, because they didn't really, it wasn't like I was saying before, that it's not that they wanted to eat the tall fruits. It wasn't that they were hungry, but they just wanted to facilitate, they wanted to instigate Krishna's pastime. They knew that Krishna they were understanding that Krishna wanted to, open up that forest for everybody, because the way that Dhenukasura was keeping it was not good. And Dhenukasura was a servant of Kamsa too. He was considered that this is Kamsa's forest, these fruits are for Kamsa, but of course, like, Kamsa didn't need all those fruits. So then by this time, let's see. Yeah.
I wanted to say that the false ego, Krishna gets in there, he throws it all around, and it's really messy and tumultuous.
Yeah.
And at the end, it makes it beautiful.
Yeah, it's good. Yep, sometimes false ego just needs to get thrashed. And then in the end, it's like, very pleasing, nice smell, beautiful. Yeah. So then it's describing how now Krishna, it's like the day is, they've had a full day, and they're getting ready to go home. So they round up all the cows, and then they're walking back, and it says Krishna's hair is powdered with the dust raised by the hoofs of the cows, and he's got his peacock feather, and he's decorated with garlands of forest flowers, looking very beautiful. And now Krishna's like, because Krishna's a little older, then he's very attractive to the girls. So the gopis, they're starting to get very attracted to Krishna, and they're eagerly waiting for him to come home. So, I mean, not only them, but everybody's always eagerly waiting for Krishna to come home. From the moment that Krishna leaves to go to the forest, the whole day while he's out there in the forest with the boys, everybody back in the village is just doing everything to, get ready for Krishna to come home. They're cleaning everything and they're cooking to make so many nice things for him to eat when he gets home. And they're making, like rangolis, these like color designs on the outside the houses. And for receiving, special guests, they always make this rangoli, and they're making garlands, and they're just, getting all ready for Krishna to come back. And
Does he extend himself in those times? How do they all interact with him?
well, they're all, it's kind of like when Krishna comes back, it's kind of like, when there's a parade and everybody comes out on the road to see.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody comes. What's that? Yeah, like right there. Everybody comes out of their houses. And everybody's, I mean, even before that, they're going to the roofs of the houses and they're looking in the distance to try to see the cloud of dust raised by the hoofs of the cows. Because when the cows walk, all this dust comes up and they know that's Krishna. Or they know Krishna's coming with all the cows. Or they're like listening, for the sound of the flute, for the sounds of the buffalo horns. And then they start to see, and it's described here. It's very beautiful, actually. I'm going to read what it says here. This is so, oh yeah, this is really nice. Rupa Goswami writes about this scene in a song called Sri Keshava Astika, that Krishna's cheeks are licked by streams of perspiration. His bouncing curly hair looks like swarms of black bees. He wears a garland of dust raised by the cow's footprints. And the boys are trying to get the dust him off. Sri Keshavastika. And it says there was a white stream, because the cows were white. There was a white stream of cows that looked like the flowing Ganga. If you've ever been to Mayapur, Nita, you've seen this, right? When you take the boat to Navadvip, you also see? And it's like the Ganga is kind of white. It's like the color of the Ganga is like silvery gray. And then the Jalangi that also flows there is very black, like the Yamuna. So when you go to the confluence, the two rivers flow together. So it's like the whitish, silverish and the black river mixing, mixing point. So it's just like that, exactly like that. There was a white stream of cows that looked like the flowing Ganga. And there was a black stream of buffaloes that looked like the Yamuna. And Krishna and Balaram looked like two baby elephants playing in the middle of the confluence of these two rivers. So sweet, right? And the cows are just like flowing around Krishna and Balaram. And Krishna's just like wandering in between all these like cows. And then it says that, oh, this is really cute. The dust on Krishna's body made him look like a happy bee covered in pollen. I really like that description. I don't know if you've ever seen, my husband, he used to keep bees. We had like beehives on our roof in Vrindavan. We used to have honey that way. And like if you watch the bees, they go out in the flowers, they come back. Sometimes you can watch them. Our bees were like pretty gentle. You could just kind of like watch them. And if you look at them closely, then you see they come back and they have these little, actually have these little pouches on their legs. That's why the bee's knees, if you see something's the bee's knees, it means it's, the bee's knees actually have pockets and they're full of pollen. They put all the pollen in there. And because they walk, yeah. So that's like where the good stuff is, the bee's knees. And their bodies are covered with pollen. And when they come like that, they're very happy because they're like, we got the goods, you know? So, yeah. And then so this is what happens. When the cows get close to the village, they start thinking of their calves because the calves were already there in the Goshala. So they start running. And then Balaram, he also runs ahead, inspired by Krishna's internal potency. He's in a hurry to get home. So then when Krishna arrives in the village, he's almost alone. Maybe there's a few very close friends who are the Priya Narmasakas that like are very confidential friends. And so Krishna's with those few friends. And because he knows the gopis are going to be there waiting for him. And he doesn't want Balaram to be around when he comes into the vicinity of the gopis because Balaram's his brother and his older brother. So it's just kind of awkward. And so then this is the first time, this day that Krishna killed Dhenukasura is the first time when the gopis are actually start to have some exchange with Krishna. But this is called Purva Rasa. It means preliminary. It's like they haven't had any interaction with Krishna yet. And now it's just, they have this love for Krishna and they're just looking at Krishna. So it's all in the eye contact. The Krishna's coming into the village and these little girls are there who like are in love with Krishna and they're just like looking out of the corner of their eye and smiling. That's it. And Krishna's looking and he's smiling and like, huh? Gently smiling, yeah. So that's like this very intense exchange, that's going on between the gopis and Krishna, but it's all just like, yeah, Purva Rag, attached before meeting. Let's see.
They never had contact with him,
No, not like in that way. Like maybe they played with Krishna when he was a baby, when they were like babies together, but now it's different because now they're older and their attraction to Krishna is like in a different mood. But it's not lust, like the way that we normally think of that kind of boy-girl relationship. It's not like a desire to, enjoy Krishna or whatever, but it's just, appreciation of Krishna's beauty, Krishna's qualities, and that they want to serve Krishna in a certain capacity. Because Krishna, he likes to have relationships with everybody. He enjoys all the different relationships. He's called Akila Rasamrita Murti, which means he's the reservoir of all the different flavors, all the different types of loving relationships. So Krishna, he enjoys the affection of his parents and he reciprocates with them as their loving child, like we sing about with Damodar Leela and all these childhood pastimes that we've been talking about with Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. And then we've been hearing about how he plays with the boys, how they wrestle and they, play in sports in different ways in the forest. And then he also has the gopis who are like his girlfriends. But everybody's mood is just to try to give Krishna pleasure. And so the gopis know that Krishna likes this kind of relationship. And so then they want to serve him in that way because they also have the inclination. But it's more for, it's always they're thinking of Krishna's enjoyment. Yeah, the same thing. The cowherd boys want to enjoy Krishna's association, but their desire is to serve him. Just like we were talking about, right, with the fruits. They were saying, Krishna, we want to eat those fruits. They smell so good. Can you go and get them for us? And then, but it's actually, they know they want to fulfill Krishna's desire like that. So in the same way, the gopis know that Krishna wants to enjoy conjugal ras, and so they reciprocate with his desire. Yeah. I mean, the older gopis, like, that are like in a maternal, like motherly.
Is it true that some of the gopis like are more attracted to like Radha and like Mr. Radha, and some of the gopis are more attracted to Krishna?
Yeah, like some gopis, they just want to, they don't engage directly with Krishna, but they just serve Srimati Radharani. They'll have Radharani get all like dressed up and make arrangements for their meetings like that. But they're also, it's like, but they're still in Madhurya Ras because they serve the Madhurya Ras between Radha and Krishna. And then there are other gopis that they're not so much attracted to Krishna, but they're attracted to Balaram. Balaram has his own gopis.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah. So then what are the gopis doing when they're seeing Krishna? They're just looking at him. They're just gazing at him with their bee-like eyes, drinking the honey of his beautiful lotus face. And yes, and Krishna likes that. Let's see. He likes the attention. Yeah, like somebody was giving class and saying that we should just stare at Krishna. Who's saying that? I maybe I heard that online, one of my classes. Yeah, that Krishna likes to be stared at.
Oh, great.
So, like,
staring at the beauty, I'm like, is this rude?
yeah, no, he likes it.
So I'm like, I should be looking at your face, I should be looking at your feet, but I I can't stop.
Like Krishna actually, he likes that. So that's like one person that we can stare at. Just go in front of the deities and stare at them, stare at Krishna's feet, stare at Krishna's face. Whatever.
Go crazy.
It says their eyes had such a desire to see Krishna that they couldn't obey the order of their mind, because the girls at that time, they're supposed to be shy, they're taught to like not look at the boys. So their internal voice was telling them you shouldn't look, but they couldn't stop looking. And it says that the eyes were, and they were thinking that we could get, in trouble, we could get kind of like labeled as, not nice, not chaste girls for looking at Krishna so long, or staring at Krishna. And so it says the eyes were jealous of the ears, which were able to hear Krishna's flute without hesitation. And the eyes were jealous of the nose, which could freely indulge in smelling Krishna's fragrance, because no one can see what you're hearing and no one can see what you're smelling, but people can see what you're looking at. So the eyes were eager for Krishna's glance. They wanted to make eye contact with Krishna. So, and even in this world, lovers communicate with each other through the eyes. So there was this whole communication going through the eyes, where the gopis, with their eyes, they were saying, please accept our offerings, which the only thing that we can offer you now is our glances and our smiles. But please accept them. This is all we can give you right now, because we're so, socially restrained. And, yeah, that's what it says here. I even wrote that in my notes. Look, Krishna wants us to look at him with love and a submissive service attitude when we take darshan. Yeah, go ahead.
One time I heard that like sometimes we go to the temple and we feel like we're going to take darshan of Krishna, but really is it the service that we're allowing Krishna to take darshan of us? But like I heard that one time.
It's both. I mean, it's both. I mean, even here, the gopis are going to see Krishna, but Krishna is looking at the gopis. And he's also taking pleasure in seeing them, because he sees their pure hearts, their love, their devotion that pleases him. So if we go, within a pleasing attitude, then Krishna will be pleased.
Somebody asked the question, like, how do we please Bhagavan to show up? Like, darshan is like roll call.
Yeah. All right. So then they got home, and of course, Mother Yashoda received them very well. With says they were bathed, massaged. The two young lords were relieved of the weariness caused by walking on the country roads. They were dressed in attractive robes, decorated with transcendental garlands and fragrances. After dining sumptuously on the delicious food given to them by their mothers and being pampered in various ways. So they would, their mothers would, Rohini and Yashoda would bathe Krishna and Balaram, get them all dressed, and then bring them down. Nanda Maharaj would be sitting there, like waiting to take prasadam, and they would sit Krishna on one side, Balaram on the other. And there was also like at home, there was like entertainment for them. They would invite people who would, play music, sing songs, recite mantras. Sometimes they would invite like magicians or like clowns to entertain. Yeah, clowns, like comedians, like clowns, like to make them laugh and do funny things. Just like in a king's court, he has his court jester. So they would invite these kinds of people. Yeah. And then, the boys, and sometimes there would be other men there from the cowherd community, Nanda Maharaj's friends, they'd be sitting there. So, Krishna and Balaram would be sitting there with the men and enjoying the evening entertainment, while Mother Yashoda was getting things ready for Krishna to go to bed. And then later, Krishna would tell Nanda Maharaj, my mother's waiting for me, I have to go. And then he would go, and then Mother Yashoda would be happy because she'd have Krishna all by himself in the room, and she would lay him down and, sing some song, and she would have some hot milk there for him to drink, and like that. So that's the killing of Dhenukasura. Yeah, it's cool how just by hearing about these pastimes, we get purified of these things, like we don't have to, it's kind of mystical. That it seems like these anartas, things like false ego are so difficult to get free of. But we have this blessing that just by hearing Krishna's pastimes, we get free from anartas. And it's enjoyable, to hear Krishna's pastimes and discuss them and to try to go deeper and deeper in these pastimes. And at the same time, it's purifying. That's why Krishna says that bhakti is susukam kartam avyayam, that it's joyfully performed. Chanting and dancing is joyful. Taking prasadam is joyful. Hearing about Krishna's pastimes is joyful. So, of course, like Evan was saying, that sometimes the purification feels like a little bit of some heat brewing, but that's minor. It's like minor. And there's so much happiness that goes on in Krishna consciousness that it really outbalances any of the difficulty that comes with it. And that difficulty also is necessary. It's like children, it's like babies teething. That it's painful, the babies cry a lot when they're teething, but it's just growing pains. So we're growing. Bhakti is a process of spiritual growth. So there's some inevitable growing pains, but it's all for a good thing. It's all positive because we're growing in the right direction. Whereas the pains of the material world are just debilitating. But the pains of Krishna consciousness, which are very minimal compared to the joys of Krishna consciousness, but they're bracing, they reinforce our faith in Krishna. And yeah. All right, Gavin.
Sorry, one of the aspects of the false ego that you mentioned was thinking we are the doer. Right? If that's not the case, what is the case?
Who's doing things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says that the conditioned soul, while sitting, walking, eating, sleeping, doing all the things that we do, we're actually not doing anything at all. It's just the body in contact with material objects. And then you could say, well, but what about my thoughts? What about my, motivations and things like that? So then he says that there's a verse. How's it start off? Verse. The ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manyate. How's it start? Oh yeah, prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. That the spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are actually carried out by material nature. So then, prakriti, there are the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And according to whatever our mindset is, then those modes, which are forces of the material energy, they push us to act in certain ways. So, the mode of ignorance pushes us to just be kind of lazy and lethargic and procrastinate and be inclined towards intoxication and depression. And then the mode of passion pushes us to want to earn money and, just enjoy material things, and makes us greedy and lustful. And then the mode of goodness makes us inclined towards, like meditation, studies, having a regulated life, doing our duties like that. So according to our mindset, these modes push us to do certain things, and we act according to that. So then you might think, well, if on one level, it's just the body interacting, the material body interacting with the material senses. And on the other hand, it's just the mind being influenced by the modes of nature that are pushing us in different directions. Then what is the soul doing? So the soul is basically like almost dormant, but the symptom of the soul is that the body, that we're conscious. So the soul enables consciousness to spread throughout the body. So we're alive. The symptom of the soul is that there's life in the body. But the soul itself, because we don't, because the soul is covered by our false ego, basically material conceptions, then it's not active. So the whole point is, like Lord Chaitanya says, Jeev Jago, which means he's saying, wake up, sleeping soul, get up from this illusion. He says, you're sleeping in the lap of the witch called Maya. Maya is just illusion. So you're sleeping in this illusion, like in a dreamlike state, thinking that the reality that you're experiencing is actually your reality, when it's really just a dream that you're thinking you're the material body. So just like in a dream, sometimes you think you're somebody that you're not, right? Like you'll think you're the king, or you think you're a whatever, somebody. And you totally identify with that in the dream, right? And you'll be doing things, you're feeling emotions, you're getting excited about things, you're afraid of things. So this life that we're living, identifying with the body and the material mind and being pushed here and there by the modes, it's like a dream. It's not our real existence. And the soul is just sleeping. So, but when we chant, so then how to wake up? He says that the holy name is the way to wake up. So when we chant, that actually wakes up the soul, and then we can start to understand that we're not the body, and that this material world is not our home, and that the sense objects are not really desirable objects, and that we have an eternal relationship with Krishna. So then we can start to actually act as, so then the soul, when as soon as you wake up, then, maybe you remember the dream a little bit for a while. You might be a little bit, if it was a bad dream, you might remain a little bit disturbed by it. But as you go through the day, it just dissipates. It's just gone. You forget about it. By the time you've eaten breakfast, it's like you practically forgot about everything. So like that, as the more we chant, the more we wake up. And then all these illusions and these false identifications, the false ego, it just goes away. It just, doesn't affect us anymore. And then we can start to function as a soul, which means the function of the soul is to serve Krishna. So we just become just very fixed. And I'm a devotee of Krishna. My activities are serving Krishna and being with devotees, and then life just becomes very simple and very joyful, because you're doing what you're meant to do. We're acting according to our real selves. We're not trying to be something that we're not. As long as we're trying to be something that we're not, we're going to be stressed. We're going to just be miserable, basically.
And so your soul becomes the doer?
Yeah. So then when we're serving Krishna, then we actually become the doer. But then, even then, there's a conception that, like, I'm just trying to serve Krishna, and Krishna is empowering me to do. But I'm just acting as Krishna's instrument, like that. So, yeah, because Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that he's the strength of the strong, he's the intelligence of the intelligent. So really, whatever facility, whatever energy we have to act is ultimately coming from Krishna. But when we act in his service, when we align ourselves with him in all that we do, then it's actually the soul. The soul is empowered to act. All right. Yeah, Casey?
I don't know if I have a question or a realization, but I'm just gonna.
Go ahead.
Okay. I've had like a lot of personal experiences, like I'll have some inarthursome habit that I just want to get rid of, and like I'll make all of the endeavor, like thinking that I can like act in such a way that I can remove this myself.
Yeah.
And like doing so kind of pushes, it never works. Like that approach never works. Like it only ever helps if I like just, like make sure to be really intensive when we sing the Nrsimha prayers and like ask Krishna to do the work for me, like I do that. But I guess like, I don't know, I've just been wondering, like, it seems like my conditioning and like society's conditioning is that like, when we have these bad habits, we should feel guilty, and that guilt is like what will like help us grow. And I don't know, I just wonder like what is the balance between like holding myself accountable in a way where I am still taking the action I need to take, to move forward, or still like wanting to move forward, and like also not like finding myself like drowning in guilt and shame, and like just being pushed into depression because I'm like thinking.
Yeah.
Oh,
You want to say, Janaki?
I was thinking Mahaprabhu, he sometimes talks about how important it is to chant in the with like remorse. And whenever you like actually feel like repentant or like remorseful or like that guilt, there's you can feel those feelings still in like this mode of goodness where you use those feelings to push you further.
Yeah.
But if the guilt is like pushing you into a depression or it's making you feel like I just can't do anything, I'm too far away, then it becomes a mode of ignorance. It just keeps you further away from Krishna, and your false ego kind of eats that up. But your true ego can also take those feelings and push you closer to Krishna. It's just a matter of like what you do with those feelings.
Like
Yeah.
it's myself-based.
Yeah.
Yeah, as devotees, it's important to really strive for the mode of goodness because the modes of passion and ignorance are prominent in the world now in this age. And so our tendency is to be influenced by those. So it's nice to like read in the Bhagavad Gita the descriptions of the different modes, and then we can understand the qualities of them and how they act on us. And yeah, one of the things about mode of goodness that's described in the Bhagavatam is that it's to feel remorse upon doing something wrong. But like Janaki said, it's not a remorse that leads us to depression, but it's just like, it's more like a recognition. You know, we recognize, okay, I made a mistake. So now how do I rectify it now? How do I rectify and make it better and learn from my mistake and do the right thing? So,
Sometimes I feel like I'm attracted to the modes of the, like almost like I romanticize it.
yeah. I mean, most people are because it's the way the world goes. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I remember when I was in high school, it's like if you failed the test, it was like you were cool, you know? If you slept until like 2 p.m., you were really cool. If you stayed up late, if you were like, you know, smoking cigarettes, if you got totally drunk, you know, that to the point where you couldn't remember what you did, like wasted, that was cool, right? So the standards of society are just standards of ignorance. It's like the more ignorant you are, the better you are, according to like materialistic Kali Yuga standards. So that's why it's just like it's just conditioning that we're like that. But it's not really who we are. It's just the way we've been conditioned. So we don't need to get down on ourselves because it's like we grew up in the society and that's what society has made us. But it's not who we are. We have to be really convinced that I am not these things. And then if we know that we're not those things, then we can step back and be like, okay, I don't have to act like that. I don't have to be like that. I don't have to respond like that. I'm actually not interested in that. And I'm trying to get over that. I'm trying to move in a new direction. And then just try to associate with people who are, you know, more in the mode of goodness. And then try to be regulated and like read the Bhagavad, learn those qualities of goodness. And we're going to, when we finish nectar instruction, we're going to start Bhagavad Gita and we'll study all those things again. So we better wrap it up because I think people are here for Damodar Astika and it's a little late. But thank you all for your questions and answers and discussion and thoughts. And Krishna in Vrindavan ki jai. Killing of Dhenukasura ki jai. Killing of false ego ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi.